Hello, and welcome to a very special feature day with one of our very special members.
It is. So this month is Stress Awareness Month. And we thought it would be very, very good to talk about stress within your business. So we've brought on a guest who's going to talk to us and to offer us a few tools out of his toolbox, talking all about stress within the business. And his motto is working with the person behind the business. So let's bring out the lovely Rob from Sherpa Bear Coaching. Here he is now. Rob, how are you? I hope I've introduced you correctly, because you do coach the person behind the business, don't you?
Yes. So it's a person-centered approach. So rather than being confined to a particular avenue in life, I'm that impartial kind of coach who comes in and coaches you, the one tool that you use for everything. So by helping you thrive, your business thrives, your relationship thrives, lots of things thrive, but the topic is always you. We may go and help you achieve, we will go and help you achieve goals, but that all happens through the avenue of you, because you have the answers. It's my job to help you bring those to the surface. So coaching the person behind the business is very accurate. Yeah.
Brilliant. And so the first question, okay, so I'm going to use me, all right, as your test subject for the day, right?
Yeah. Sure.
Because, well, I'm a person in business, all right, and I have all the stresses and the strains of a business. However, I'm also a person in a relationship, but I'm also a person in a relationship with the person I'm in business with. So,
that is going to be the challenge of the day, right?
I'm not alone, right? I'm not alone in this principle. And people go into business, you talk about relationships, but it's also, I've seen a lot of families break down because of a business stress. I've seen brothers literally at fisticuffs because of the stress related around business. And I always think it is a massive, massive shame. So stress is, I think, one of the fundamental factors of that, whether it be financial stress, whether it just be stress from pressure, whether it be, making the right decision, getting it right. It gets catalyst, right? So using me as an example, right? I'm under stress right now. All right. I'm running a business. I'm trying to make sure that our marriage is safe and secure. I'm also planning because we've got a big event coming up. So that's adding pressure and stress. So give me some tools, Rob. Give me some help, mate. I'm begging for help.
Okay. So before I kind of get into the tool list that I've got prepared, the things that you're saying to me, lots of things jump up, and I think one of the strongest things you can have in a relationship, whether it's business or personal, is excellent communication. Because when we don't, there are gaps, and those gaps get filled by assumptions or beliefs, and they are gaps in knowledge. And then we start acting on those gaps in knowledge, which they're not the truth. They're kind of like our truth. And so there's a distance between us and what's really going on, but also we don't understand what someone else is feeling or experiencing as well. So sometimes it is quite often the missing piece of the jigsaw is how to communicate with somebody effectively. Now, we're talking about family, working with family. You have already got a certain type of relationship. You might be the middle child or the youngest child, the oldest child, and they all have kind of different ways of moving through life because of who they are, because they arrive first, second, or third, in terms of a family unit. And so we're already living life a certain way because of those incidences, and we might not know that that's almost speaking on our behalf in some respects. So standing back from it all and understanding that to start with, and then filling the gaps with different approaches, because if you want something different, you need to do something different and embody some different approaches. That's when it starts to get powerful. And that's what I do. I help someone stand back from a situation and look at all the things that are there. There's loads more options than we think. especially when it comes to communicating, especially when you have a long-standing relationship with somebody already and you're going to go into business together.
It's very true what you're saying there, actually, and I say it to you quite often. I always say, so there's an old saying, there's two heads to every coin, or there's two sides to every coin, and I completely disagree with that. I've always said there's three sides to every coin, because there's heads, tail, and then there's the rim. And what I always say is there's your side, my side, and then there's the actual truth in the middle, the actual reality. Because I've got my vision of the world is very different to Charlotte's vision of the world, even when it comes to a particular subject or a particular task. And even though we don't mean to kind of for it to be different, but it is different because Charlotte and Jamie's Jamie. So it's a real chemistry there, and communication is so key. And I think we've experienced this when
I think that's where couples often get lost, or not just couples, but in business as well, just your colleagues. And if you're a leader of a business and you have a team behind you, that communication is key to actually make it all work. And that can be really daunting. It can be really hard to kind of do, and especially if you have gone from being promoted into leadership and running a team, that can be extremely hard. It's all about finding that communication. So I'm hoping that you have some incredible tools around what we can use, not just for the communication, but other sort of tools for the stress awareness as well.
And shovels to bury me under the patio. Not one of the tools that we want to use. Okay, just get that out there.
I do have some tools, and to go back to your coin analogy, which I love, is so empathy is allowing someone to feel a certain thing, to give them that space. But also there's a place, there's a time and a place to go and visit the other side of the coin and be there, because what that will do is it helps you understand why someone has a certain approach to life. And they come to your side of the coin as well. Understand why you have a certain approach, because it's not, otherwise it's just the two end approaches meeting. And if they don't quite align, well, why aren't you saying my way? And why aren't you saying my way? So that understanding and agreeing to understand as well, as a partnership, are we both agreeing to go into each other's worlds and understand a bit more? It can, sometimes it's nice to know why. You give people latitude. Why do they have the volume so loud in their music? Oh, they're completely deaf. Right. All right, I get it. That kind of thing. Otherwise, you start making assumptions. Oh, they just like playing loud music and really annoy me. That's their raison d'etre. No, they're nearly completely deaf, and that's why. Oh, different. Okay.
Yeah. Well, funny enough, I am nearly completely deaf.
You hide it well.
It is incredible, though, what you can sometimes hear, but we're not going to go into
that. The funny thing about it is,
selective.
Say to me, using that analogy, people always say, "God, you're so loud," and I'm like, "Oh, am I?" But I'm not loud. I'm trying to hear myself. So
great. There you go. There's an example of you've taken us to your side of the coin.
Yeah.
You've told us something that I get it. Right. Cool. I'm on board.
It doesn't help Charlotte, though, that the fact that she knows why I'm loud.
When we got into this office, I did not want to sit next to Jamie, and he's like, "But why?" And because you're too loud. And it's like you can't sit next to me, because I would listen, I would hear, just but it's understanding both sides, then, isn't it?
Yeah, because of course you can't concentrate because I'm loud. So it's and that. If Charlotte can't, this is it's a live coaching session. But it is very, very true, because actually the stress and strains that we have are very real, right? And we laugh and joke about them at times, but they're very, very real. And if Charlotte's really trying to concentrate, and she can't because I'm loud, she's getting stressed out about it. But it's another way of finding that way around it is actually to have a place where Charlotte can go to, for example, where she doesn't have to listen to me. She can come into the boardroom and, she's out of the way, or she can send me into the boardroom and go, "Jamie, you're loud, go in the boardroom," right? So there is that we have options. And I think that's probably something, as well as you're looking on the other side of that coin with each other, it comes down to respect. So respecting that actually, you don't mean to be loud, but you are loud. So, don't be defensive about it. Be empathetic about it. So I know I'm loud. I need to look at ways of resolving that issue or taking that issue out of the equation, and then we move on. So, and I'm sure that's, I don't want to steal your thunder, but I'm sure that's one of the kind of things that, you know, we can look at as business people.
Definitely. And with regards to relationships, is it something that's going to change or is it not? Because there are some things that we can all change and some things that they're not going to change. And if your expectations that the things that really won't change are going to change, there's a route to problems.
Yeah.
That's
so
really
Jamie,
Jamie,
you're never going to be quiet. Okay, so that's the thing that's not going to change,
right? There's about 20,000 people that would agree with you right now.
Right? Yeah. Fine. So Charlotte's not going to, let's say, just press that every week. I wish you'd be more quiet, kind of thing. But then you can get into, okay, what's the solutions here? Right, boardroom, one of you, great.
Yeah.
Whereas if it's something which you think, let's say Charlotte does something, and I can change that, great. And so I think recognizing what those things are can find peace in a relationship. Because if you've got hearts which are at war when they meet, it's a very different outcome to hearts which are empathetic and at peace and when they meet. So
let's talk about another stress, right? Something a little bit more in depth. Now, Charlotte and I are actually very, very good at this. We will have an idea, all right? So, for example, I wanted the logo to be blue. Charlotte wanted the logo to be pink. Well, neither of us wanted what each other wanted, so the logo became yellow, right? There was a compromise. I'm not sure that was the actual case. I think this logo was always meant to be yellow, but let's just say that was the example. But some of these can cause real conflict, all right? And that conflict can then inject a great deal of stress. So how can we look at conflict management when, say, Charlotte has an idea, I have an idea, those ideas clash? We're very good actually at compromising and going, right, okay, well, we won't do either of them and we'll do something that both works for both of us. But what can other people do that are listening and going, I can relate to that? Because that's a big problem.
What's attached to your choice of a certain color or a certain design? So what arrives with that? So the choice of the color is like the tip of the spear, and the rest of the spear is going to arrive. You know, and that's big. It's broader. So lots of other things, like a comet moving through space, and things get attracted towards it and get towed along in its tail. You know, so the comet is my choice of logo or color, and there's a load of other stuff arriving with it. Maybe it's the fact that, well, I like to be right, or I believe I'm right and I believe you're wrong, and this is the right choice and that's the wrong choice. Also, beliefs are very interesting. We'll come on to that in a minute, but you know, we behave a certain way. So if you use this sentence starter, my belief is, and you say what your belief is, that my logo is the best choice, and the effect on me is, what's the effect on you? How do you turn up? What's your demeanor like? Do you hold eye contact? Do you even consider the other design? And I think that's quite a helpful. I mean, I'm not a specialist in conflict resolution. I mean, myself and my partner, we're going through an educational process to explore our own relationship and how we approach things. And it just does come down to communication and taking responsibility for what you think. So when you do that, you know, if I say this to my partner, when you do that, I interpret it to mean this, rather than you're being annoying. That's just my interpretation of it. So you can tell I'm on a learning curve here as well. So I'm not speaking with any authority. But coming back to the, you know, as a coach, I believe communication is my strength. I think analyzing the communication, and if it's a belief, it's a belief. It's not everything. It's not across the board. It's yours. You take ownership of that. What happens when you operate with a belief, and just get interested rather than we're fearing about, you know, communication. Communication can be really fun and far more expansive than it might otherwise be.
Brilliant, mate. Yeah, it's really
great
good.
answer as well.
So what else can we do? I mean, you know, I've given a lot of examples there of just stress related. Yeah. You know, but talk to us a little bit more about a broader, you know, a broader subject, because like we all know this, like, we all have stress. There's good stress and there's bad stress. And I know that you are very experienced in both of them. So yeah, tell us a bit more, mate.
So I think my conscious experience with stress as a professional was when I was coaching NHS patients all through the lockdown. So from December 2019 through to May 2021, everyone I was talking to was stressed. And suddenly we couldn't leave our homes. All the sessions were taking place on the phone. And before any kind of coaching could happen, I had to get through the stress to be able to deal with the person. So what's your stress broadcasting? What are you in tune to right now? At that time, all the fears and anxieties of COVID. Yeah, everyone was hyper receptive to it. Many people had the news channel on all the time. Death toll's gone up, death toll's gone up, death toll. It was very visceral for many of us, and I personally didn't like it at all. So I found it stressful. But it's recognizing that it can be seen to be a broadcast, and also think about where and when your stress is. Are you stressing about your immediate personal geography and time frame, like right now? Right now, I'm in a nice, relaxed room in my home. I'm fine. But I could be stressed about 2 hours from now, as in I'm thinking about what's going on in 2 hours from now. I'm not, because I'm going to the pub. It's going to be nice and relaxing. Fine. But when and where is your stress? Is it happening right now? Now, for some people, it's just all encompassing. So I have to interrupt the broadcast, and I'm going to help you do that and get access to yourselves. So I'm going to invite you to do some things with me, some skills. These can be popped into your toolbox. Okay, so Charlotte and Jamie and everyone else watching, I want you to put your thumb and your second finger together. Okay, now I want you to look very closely at the contact patch and make that contact patch as small as you possibly can. And in fact, try and touch only the ridges of the fingerprints on each digit. It's very hard to do. And what you've got in between there is the wing of a butterfly. Now, it's very delicate. We don't want to damage it, but we're going to try and stroke the wing by moving the finger up and down the thumb. And it should feel like a very light tickle.
Yeah, it does.
And Jamie, what are you thinking about?
Well, I'm going to be honest with you. I do suffer with dexterity in my fingers due to my condition. So for me, it's actually quite a bit of a struggle, and I'm thinking about the pain of that struggle. But I'm visualizing the actual butterfly, which is really strange. But for a split second, then I actually forgot about everything else.
Yeah.
And then the only thing I could think about was how heavy-handed Charlotte is. And I just kept thinking to myself, that poor butterfly right now is screaming. So I had this whole weird kind of story going on in my head. I mean, I'm a strange character anyway, right? So I had this whole kind of internal dialogue going on in my own mind, and it probably had very little to do with anything else that's actually stressing me out at the moment. So,
but very interestingly for me, when I completely forgot that we were on a live show. I completely kind of just focused on one thing, which is incredible, because you then completely relax your mind from any other thoughts that were going on.
So for both, the more you do it, the better you get. Okay, and the more clear the effects will be. So you're doing something that requires a lot of focus and control, and it's sensory, and you're, I'd say, getting into your body. So stress can often, be the cognitive stress of thinking about things. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to kind of grab you back from being taken down that road and getting you to be here right now. So like if I gave you a golden retriever puppy, a few weeks old, you'd suddenly be focused on this wriggling ball of fur. That would be an interruption in your broadcast of stress. It might be a different kind of stress, but then, so the butterfly technique, well, you don't need anything, okay? As long as you've got two parts of your body to put together, you can do it. Okay, so the butterfly technique. Interrupt that broadcast. I'll tell you a few other ways to interrupt the broadcast as well. So we've got 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So 5 things you can see, 4 things you can hear, 3 things you can touch, 2 things you can taste, and 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. So, Charlotte, give me 5 things that you can see around you.
Rob, how many people are watching, the screen, the camera, and the table.
Okay, Jamie, 4 things you can hear.
4 things I can hear. So I can hear a car outside.
Yeah.
I can hear you talking to me. I can, every now and again, I can hear my joint clicking, because they do.
Yeah.
I can hear Charlotte breathing.
There you go, 4 things. Okay. Yeah. 3 things that you can touch, Charlotte.
My thigh, my nose, my ear.
2 things you can smell, Jamie.
Oh, crikey. I can't really smell much at all, if I'm going to be honest. So I can smell the fact that we got fresh carpet.
Right, there you go.
Yeah, I can smell that. And we haven't long had the ceiling painted in here done by the lovely Charlotte. So I can actually smell the paint, but I'm not sure if it's the wax on the wall. So, but I can smell that redecorating smell.
Yeah. So you've had to focus. It's possible. Yeah. Right. So you're focusing on the now, where you are, and you've had to get some brain power back, let's say, from what you might be worried or stressed about, to do that. Yeah. And the same for all these steps. Charlotte, the last one. What one thing you can taste?
The cup of tea that I had earlier.
Okay. And if we think we can generally not taste anything, well, we can actually taste the taste of our own mouth if we give it enough time. And you can also lick the back of your hand. It's whatever you do, you have to kind of give over some of your presence and your life energy to what's going on right now. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. What's happening right here, right now? Okay, so we've got butterfly effect, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The next one is a technique I used to help people who had trauma or dealing with anxiety, and it's tapping. Now, tapping is a whole process. It's a bit too long to go into it today, but I invite you all to tap on your clavicle, on your collarbone. And you're tapping about as hard as you tap on someone's shoulder to get their attention in a noisy environment. Okay. So I could be thinking about something that is stressful. Okay, let's say, I don't know, my car's going to have a service today. I know it's going to fail. I need it the next day. There you go. That's something stressful. The fact I'm tapping on my body means that I can't ignore this, and I can't give this consciousness over to that stressful thought. I have to use some of my brain power to acknowledge that this is happening. Okay. So if you were sat, let's say, with a 12-mile stare, as my dad used to say, 12-mile stare, and lost in thoughts, and if someone came and put their hand on your shoulder, or a loved one just, stroked you on your back, it would bring you back to the present. So I often use tapping just like that when I'm trying to think of something. It doesn't have to be stressful, actually. But I just, what am I going to do? And it kind of helps me kind of remain here, but think about something else. So tapping is a bit like, so with trauma and anxiety, I think it's like falling into a volcano and falling into a lava pit. Horrible. Okay. Tapping is like abseiling into the volcano and stopping and looking around. You're attached to somewhere else. You don't experience the same trauma or stress every time. But it's a whole process to go into. The next thing to do is to again get back into your body, is to do some breathing. Okay, different types of breathing. So I took in a big breath of air then. What I'm doing when I do that is I'm telling my body to get ready for action. So I'm flooding myself with oxygen, so my muscles have the fuel to then go and do something like run up a flight of stairs or run for a bus. So I want to reduce the amount of oxygen in my body. So I'm going to take a sip of the air over a count of 4, and I'm going to blow more air out over a count of 6. So it looks like this. it immediately calms me down. I'm changing chemically what's going on in my body. I'm changing what my body is telling my head. It's telling me to relax. So breathing is a great way, because these are all really accessible. They're all within us. They're not like, go and do this 12-week course. You can do these things, but they're about getting access to you, rather than giving a response to something in life. Well, rather than having stress give a response to something in life on your behalf, you give a response to something. Yeah. What do I think about this? Let me just have a think. 10 seconds later. I think this. What do you think about that? Okay. So the toolbox, the toolkit's very close.
But we don't do that often enough, do we?
The breathing one is a good one, because the breathing one you can do. I mean, if I'm not going to lie, if I was in the middle of a meeting and someone asked me a question that I felt quite stressful, and I said, just give me a second, and started doing this, they're going to wonder what I'm doing. But what
would happen if they wondered what you were doing?
Well, then I'd have to explain it to them.
You'd have a whole board meeting kind of going like,
yeah. Can you imagine?
Why not?
But to stop and take that breath, you can do that almost anonymously, right?
You can do this without even doing this. You just think of a butterfly in between your fingers. So when you almost become, the aim is to become, so I've made you consciously competent today. Yeah. To have you be unconsciously competent, or there's a place in between where I'm consciously doing it, but I'm not actually doing the action. Butterfly, trigger word. What does that mean? It means just focus on the now, right? And you get the effect. So yeah.
It's very clever. I'm gonna jump over. These are some of these techniques I've experienced before, and they do work. And some of them actually I put into action on a daily basis. So the breathing one I do quite often. I especially do it at night, just before I go to bed. And I'll take 3 deep breaths in, and I'll breathe out very, very heavy. And sometimes Charlotte will go, "You okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fine." And it's just me. I'm switched off for the night. I'm done.
Yeah.
Do you know? And it's just me going, right now is all about sleeping, or right now is all about resting. But we've had a couple of comments come through. So Massimo, I'm not sure if I pronounce it right.
Oh, Max. This is Max. Yeah.
Oh, you know him, right? So,
yeah, Kamuzi. Yeah.
He said fun and expansive communication, food for thoughts. But he's also then come in and he said having a language to unpack my stress is a challenge when it happens. So I'm not sure what that means, but yeah, give us some feedback on that, mate.
Having a language to unpack my stress is a challenge when it... Okay, so I think I'll take responsibility for this, that maybe trying to unpack it when it happens may not be possible all the time. To acknowledge it, you could say where you feel stress. So again, using your body, the geography of your body, where do you feel stress? I feel it in my head. If it was a color, what would it be? It would be red. What's it doing in your head? It's bouncing around like a squash ball on a squash court. Well, there's a language. So asking someone to get a little bit kind of creative, especially in the now, it's trying to work out why, probably not the right time to do it. What is it? It is this feeling in my chest. What's it like? It's like this, and have someone, tap on it's like that, and I feel it, when this happened. Okay, and so I think using the languages that we do have, without having to invent any more words, but just saying, right, it happens here. It feels like this. And what do you do when you feel this way? What do I do? I know. Oh, well, I'm pacing around. I've had many clients and patients tell me what they're feeling on the phone. I've never met them before, never seen them, but I embody what they're doing. I'm clenching my fist, so I clench my fist. I'm walking at really short paces and my head's pointing towards the floor. I do the same. So I'm trying to be empathetic and understand what they're doing, but also I'm getting them to learn the language of their stress. Because, like the skills we talked about, you can start to recognize the onset. If you don't realize you're stressed, but the behavior pattern starts to emerge and you have become somewhat fluent in it, you can start to recognize it. Okay, so if you start to get that to sort of preempt it, then you're in a position of more choice.
I like that, because one of the things I always recognize is the breathing, because I start breathing, just shallow breathing, when I get stressed. Right. And that's one of the, and I have, but I don't know I have. So
everyone else does.
Yeah. But I recognize the fact that my breathing gets shallow, and that's a sign that actually I'm feeling really stressed. So it's time to take myself outside, like for a minute.
Take dog for a walk.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm gonna come back.
We'll talk about dogs in a minute. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna come back to something. So I used to get really stressed out in very particular situations, right? And I done a bit of fact finding, right? So we were talking about understanding, the language of stress. Because you see, if you understand what stresses you, then you can tell people what causes that stress. And then you have a chance of it not happening, preventing it before it happens. So, for example, I'm quite severely dyslexic. And one of the things that stress me out is time. First off, I can't tell it very well. And secondly, if I say I'm going to have to be somewhere, I've got to be there, right? Like 10, 15 minutes early. And so Charlotte, on the other hand, works on Charlotte time. So her time is usually about 10 minutes slower than everybody else, which means Charlotte is quite often late, right?
I've heard that's a positive thing.
Apparently it's for positivity,
thinker.
yeah. Apparently
right. So
I'm
going to put a pin in that. We'll come back to that. So you're a positive thinker. Okay, right.
So it was causing, it causes me a lot of stress, right? A lot of anxiety and a lot of stress. And for a long time, I couldn't understand why that was. But then we identified what caused it. And actually then when we identified it, Charlotte then understood it. So Charlotte now makes a conscious decision not to be late. But because she's being conscious, I understand she's being conscious, which means it's not stressing me out. And that is, it's just one thing. It's just one thing. This stress caused arguments, right? But simply by understanding the language of my own body and why I was doing something, I could then explain that to Charlotte. She could then understand it, be empathetic. She then respects it. We're back in rapport. And that is not, it's now a reduced problem. And that's pretty much what you're talking about there in a more personal way. But I think that's what you're kind of saying.
And well, that is a lovely addition to your coin analogy earlier. And then, so you've gone to each other's side of the coins there a little bit to see what's, find out a why. Charlotte, you said being late is like an indication of quality of someone who's creative. You clearly are. And I mentioned about in terms of relationships, is it something that this person will change, or is it just no? Good luck to you. Well, if the cost of creativity is being late, and we love Charlotte being creative, then is there latitude to be granted there as well? So it's an amalgamation of lots of things going on there, but it's a great example of finding where we fit. Yeah, rather than sort of meeting like that, it's meeting like that.
But it helps to understand that massively, because it's now not causing arguments, and we couldn't understand. It was such a drama to go somewhere, and I didn't understand why being 5 minutes late was such an issue. Because
truth is, neither did I. And it wasn't until we kind of reached out to someone who is a dyslexic coach, and he's a brilliant guy, and he went, "Do you know that's characteristic of dyslexia?" I was like, "Is it?" And he's like, "Yeah." I was like, "I just thought I was like proper weird." And he's like, "No, this is it's how your brain works." So sometimes that level of stress doesn't always have to be an external input. It can also be an internal input that you can't control. So mine is a neurodiverse element that I can't control. I've had it since birth. But by understanding it, it actually makes life a lot easier. So now when we go places, it's like, don't worry about it, we'll sort it out. And we're a lot more relaxed. So by the time we get there, one of us is not killing the others.
That's good. It's good to have you both around. Yeah.
Like if you're going to have a marriage, let's not end in murder.
Yeah.
Rob, look, we have to end the show very shortly, right?
Sure.
So I just want to come back, and I just want to just a quick final tips, a final word from you. So if you were going to have a final saying around stress, what would that sort of final point be?
Okay. The water in this glass represents stress. Okay. And the air above it represents a buffer zone. The trouble is, you're not translucent or clear, you're opaque. We don't know where our stress is. So it makes sense to create a buffer zone, as I'm doing now. Now I've got a bit more capacity for any type of stress that may arrive. And we don't know what's going to arrive tomorrow or the next 10 minutes. So what is that buffer zone? Well, one of the most powerful things we can do is talk. And I think it's really important to engineer success. Choose your audience. If you want to talk about anything, who is the best listener? Not the person who's going to be waiting for a chance to respond to what you're saying. Who's going to let you talk? Who's going to operate with empathy? Who's going to give you space? It may not be your best friend. It might not be your spouse. Have a think about it. Secondly, engineer success by making a request. Hey, you're a great listener. Can I just bend your ear for a few minutes? I'd love it if you just listen to what I'm going through. It will really help me sort things out. Okay. So talking. If it's not someone you know informally and you want to talk to a professional, then seek out someone who's got the best training that you can find. If it's the first time you talked about anything that is traumatic, probably counseling. If it's about changing your relationship with something like that, it's really stressful, it could be therapy. And if it's talking to somebody about going and do things differently and having aspirational ideas executed, then life coaching. Okay, I hover over, there's always an overlap between those. If you don't want to talk to anybody at the moment, this is very powerful. It's one of my journals from 1999. Used to write it every day. Jamie, a bit like your breathing, it was my way to bookend a day. This person won't talk back. They will listen. It is far more powerful than you can imagine if you haven't done it. You can write one word to sum up your day. You can write an essay. You can have a mind blurt. A mind blurt is where you just write down what's going on. So I don't know why I'm writing in my diary. My mouth is dry. What's for tea? I've only just woken up. Oh, it doesn't matter. Get it all out, because that is the chaff that is getting in the way of the wheat, the goodness inside, just these random thoughts which clog you up. And we just don't know, as I say, where we are inside the stress. So it makes sense to create a buffer as much as we can. Exercise is a great way as well. I'll be doing that later. We learned something from dogs. Dogs, when they're really stressed, can run backwards and forwards like a nutter. Okay, that's their way of shedding stress. And then it can change into a game of play. We can do the same thing. We can either shake, literally physically shake ourselves, or go run up and down some stairs, or do something that is a good kind of stress, that you stress, to process that stress. Get some good sleep, drink water, eat great food.
Fantastic. So I know what I'm going to do tonight now, Rob. I'm going to run around the living room chasing my tail, and then I'm going to roll over and play dead, and then I'm going to grab one of her toys and I'm going to have a good wrestle. Because that's what our dog does. And here I was thinking she was
that
crazy.
Sounds great.
But actually, she's a little bit stressed out. So maybe I can have a good conversation with her.
Really interestingly, actually, our dog shakes it off. And if
yeah,
you tell,
she does.
Yeah, because she's really anxious. And if she meets another dog and she gets anxious, I tell her to shake it off.
And she does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But sometimes she'll shake it off, and then she'll be like, and you go, shake it off, and she shakes it off again, and she'll do it until she stops and she's chilled out. It is incredible. It is incredible.
Strange,
so one final comment coming in from, is it Max or Max? I'm not sure.
Max is a friend of mine. He's a fellow coach, a great coach, and I'm really thankful that he's joined us. What's he said? Thank you. A new body approach.
There you go. And I think that's a great way to end the show. Rob, thank you so much for your time. I feel so much de-stressed. I'm not gonna lie.
I feel really calm.
But you know what? I tell you what, I have gone through this process with you, and I actually go, do you know what? I'm not a lunatic. All right, it's just dealing with what's being thrown at us at the time, and you are right about finding someone to speak to. I've got very dear friends, and I will talk to them about my stress, but I won't talk to them about other stuff. when I've got other friends that I would talk to about, you know, intimate parts of my life, but I wouldn't talk to them about my business stress because they just wouldn't get it. So you do have to you have to choose your audience. You have to choose the people around you. And I think that's a very true point.
I think one final point as well is that find somebody that can listen, because you're not alone. Because a lot of people think that the stress is just within them and nobody's experiencing the stress that you have. And reach out, whether it's, you know, Samaritans, whether it's a coach, whether it's just anybody. It's easier to reach out sometimes to a stranger. So I would find somebody that you feel that you can trust. And a conversation doesn't cost anything, right? Anyone can pick up the phone and have a discovery call with anybody. And that should be good practice with any coaching or mentoring or any therapy. So I would just say pick up the phone if you feel like you're alone and you can't share it with someone. I think that's really, really important.
Brilliant.
Yeah, well, and just start somewhere. You know, find the avenue that works for you. If you go to the city of Wells, near the cathedral, there's a bench. And it says, if you sit in this bench, you are saying that you are open to strangers sitting next to you and having a conversation.
Isn't that lovely?
Brilliant.
That is really lovely.
Well, listen, guys, I do have to end the show. I have to take control. I have to be that person. So if you want to know more about Rob, of course, just search for Sherpa Bear Coaching or Rob Stewart himself. But you can also find him right on the link below, cinobounds.co.uk. Rob, we've loved having you on the show. You are absolutely brilliant. You are a true gent. I've met you a few times face to face now, and you are as calm as you appear on stage. So thank you so much for your time, mate. And yeah, we will speak to you soon. You have a great evening. Okay.
Thank you very much. Great to
Thank you.
Bye now. And also to Matt. Goodbye, mate. Bye. You have a lovely weekend as well. Take care all. Bye now.
Max.